The cold steel of the handcuffs clicked around her wrists. The veteran cop sneered, whispering that nobody would ever believe a rookie over a decorated sergeant. He thought he had just ruined a young black woman's life. He had no idea he had just handed the FBI everything they needed. Amara Quinn was not a rookie cop, though her freshly pressed uniform and the nervous energy she expertly feigned suggested otherwise. She had graduated near the top of her class at Quantico. She held a law degree, possessed a sharp mind for forensic accounting, and carried a deep-seated hatred for those who abused the badge. Her current assignment was highly classified, sanctioned directly by the Department of Justice, under a Title 18 U.S.C. Section 242 investigation. Her target was Sergeant Cole Brennan. Brennan was a longtime veteran of the Fairview Police Department, a gritty precinct in a city that had seen better days. On paper, Brennan was a hero. He had 2 commendations for valor and a staggering arrest record. But off the books, the FBI's Office of the Inspector General held a very different file on him. Over many years, the City Council had quietly paid out millions of dollars to settle civil rights lawsuits involving Brennan. The victims were almost exclusively young black men. The complaints were always the same: excessive force, planted evidence, and racially motivated harassment. Yet the local Internal Affairs Division was a toothless bureaucratic machine, effectively run by Brennan's poker buddies. They always cleared him. The FBI knew the only way to root out the rot was from the inside. They needed a plant, someone Brennan would look at and immediately underestimate, someone his ingrained prejudices would blind him to. Enter Amara Quinn. Her official cut was ironclad. Her personnel file, carefully forged by her handler, Special Agent Theo Lang, painted her as a struggling recruit who had barely scraped through the State Police Academy. She was perfectly positioned to become Brennan's next victim, or his pawn. Her early days at Fairview Station were a masterclass in psychological endurance. The squam smelled of stale coffee, damp wool, and an unspoken, suffocating boys' club culture. Brennan targeted her from the start. He was a physically imposing man, barrel-chested, with a ruddy complexion and pale, assessing eyes that seemed to constantly search for weaknesses. "Quinn, right?" Brennan had said, leaning heavily against her desk and invading her personal space. "Diversity hire. Must be nice skipping the line. Let's get one thing straight. Out there on the streets, nobody cares about your soft feelings or your quotas. You mess up, I won't save you." "Understood, Sergeant," Amara had replied, keeping her voice carefully submissive, while the high-definition recording wire taped securely beneath her Kevlar vest captured every word. Over the following period, Brennan relentlessly tested her. He assigned her the most grueling, degrading tasks. He made racially coded remarks disguised as tough love. He intentionally paired her with aggressive suspects, stepping back to watch her struggle, hoping she would break protocol. But Amara never did. She handled every situation with textbook precision, deliberately masking her elite tactical training by making herself look just clumsy enough to remain a rookie in his eyes. The FBI was not there for workplace harassment. They needed a felony. They needed to catch Brennan in the act of framing an innocent person and violating civil rights under color of law. The breakthrough came on a sweltering afternoon. Amara was riding shotgun in Brennan's cruiser. The radio crackled with a mundane noise complaint dispatch, but Brennan ignored it. He was busy staring down a battered Honda Civic driving a few car lengths ahead. The driver was a young black teenager. "Watch this," Brennan muttered, his lips curling into a predatory smirk. He did not run the plates. He did not check the speed. He simply flipped on the sirens. "What's the probable cause, Sergeant?" Amara asked, her heart rate steadying into the rhythm of her training. "Broken tail light." Brennan lied smoothly. The tail lights on the Honda were perfectly intact. Plus, he's nervous. Look at him gripping that wheel. He doesn't belong in this neighborhood. Amara mentally noted the moment for her audio wire. "Here we go." The Honda pulled over to the shoulder. Brennan stepped out of the cruiser, his hand resting casually on his sidearm, an intimidation tactic he used exclusively for certain demographics. Amara followed, moving to the passenger side of the suspect's vehicle to maintain a tactical view. Her body-worn camera was deliberately angled to capture Brennan's every move. The driver rolled down the window. His name was Jordan Ellis, a local college student heading home from a shift at a hardware store. He looked terrified. "License and registration," Brennan barked, shining his heavy-duty tactical flashlight directly into Jordan's eyes despite the broad daylight. "Officer, I was just driving home," Jordan stammered, his hands shaking as he reached for his wallet. "Did I do something wrong?" "Keep your hands where I can see them," Brennan snapped, artificially escalating the tension. "Step out of the vehicle." Amara watched, her blood running cold, but her face remained an impassive mask. There was no legal justification for pulling Jordan out of the car. Brennan patted the teenager down roughly, shoving him against the side of the vehicle. "I'm going to search the vehicle," Brennan announced, tossing the keys to Amara. "Quinn, keep an eye on him. If he twitches, drop him." Amara stood near Jordan. "Just stay calm," she whispered so softly that Brennan could not hear. "Don't give him a reason." Brennan leaned into the driver's side of the Civic. Amara's angle was restricted, but she saw exactly what she needed to see. From his tactical vest, Brennan palmed a small, clear plastic baggie filled with a white crystalline substance. In one fluid, practiced motion, he shoved it straight down into the gap between the driver's seat and the center console. A few seconds later, he backed out of the car, holding the baggie up like a trophy. "Well, well, well," Brennan said, his voice dripping with mock disappointment. "Looks like we've got a distributor here. What is this, kid? Meth? Crack?" "That's not mine," Jordan cried out, his voice cracking with panic. "I swear to God, I've never seen that before in my life. You put that there." "Resisting arrest and lying to a police officer," Brennan sneered. He yanked Jordan's arms behind his back and slapped the cuffs on with excessive force. "Quinn, bag this evidence. I want the arrest report on my desk by end of shift. You're going to write it exactly as I tell you." This was the moment. The trap was set, but Brennan had inadvertently placed the bait in Amara's hands by giving her the evidence and ordering her to write the falsified report. He was dragging her into the conspiracy. Back at the precinct, the tension was suffocating. Amara sat at her desk, staring at the blank incident report on her terminal. The plastic baggie of fake meth, likely crushed drywall or powdered sugar, Brennan kept for exactly this purpose, sat in an evidence bag next to her keyboard. Brennan walked up behind her and tapped the screen. "You struggling with the keyboard, Quinn? It's simple. You write that I observed a traffic violation. We pulled him over. You saw the suspect making furtive movements toward the center console. We searched the vehicle with probable cause and recovered the narcotics. Print it, sign it." "Sergeant," Amara said slowly, her voice carefully modulated. "I didn't see him make any furtive movements. My body cam won't reflect that." Brennan's eyes narrowed. The paternal, mocking tone vanished, replaced by a cold, dangerous glare. "Your body cam was malfunctioning, wasn't it? Just like mine was. Sometimes the battery just dies. You're a rookie, Quinn. You're supposed to learn how the real world works. You sign that report, or your career is over before it starts." Amara looked him dead in the eye. "I can't sign a false report, Sergeant. It's against the law." The squad room went deathly quiet. A few other officers looked away, suddenly very interested in their paperwork. Brennan leaned in close, his breath hot and smelling of cheap tobacco. "You think you're better than us," he hissed. "You think you can come into my house and tell me how to clean up the garbage on my streets. You're a liability, Quinn. And in this department, liabilities don't last long." Brennan stormed off, heading straight toward the office of Lieutenant Harlan Voss, another dirty cop on the FBI's radar. Amara knew exactly what was happening. By refusing to play along, she had made herself a threat. Brennan would not simply fire her. He would destroy her credibility to ensure she could never testify against him. As her shift ended, Amara was heading toward the women's locker room. The hallways were mostly deserted. As she opened her locker to retrieve her civilian clothes, she noticed something wrong. The ventilation grate inside her locker was slightly ajar. She reached out, carefully pulling the metal grate back. Tucked neatly inside the vent was a heavy, unfamiliar object wrapped in an oily rag. She pulled it out. It was a snub-nosed .38 revolver, its serial number filed off, a classic drop gun. Before she could process the implications, the locker room door swung open. Brennan stood in the doorway, flanked by two of his most loyal deputies. They had their hands on their holsters. "Well, what do we have here?" Brennan said, a sinister grin spreading across his face. An anonymous tip comes in saying a rookie cop is stealing evidence from the lockup. And here you are, Officer Quinn, in possession of an unregistered firearm. He unclipped his handcuffs and took a step toward her. "You're under arrest, Quinn. I told you, liabilities don't last long." The handcuffs were fastened with deliberate, punishing force, the jagged metal teeth biting sharply into the delicate skin of Amara's wrists. Sergeant Cole Brennan did not gently escort her out of the locker room. He hauled her by the bicep, his thick fingers digging into her muscles. He paraded her through the center of the Fairview Police Department squad room, like a hunter displaying a prized kill. The bullpen, usually a chaotic symphony of ringing telephones, clattering keyboards, and overlapping dispatch radios, fell into a heavy, suffocating silence. Dozens of officers stopped what they were doing to stare. A few of the younger ones looked away, their faces pale, silently thanking whatever power they believed in that Brennan's crosshairs had not landed on them. The older veterans, the ones who had thrived in the toxic ecosystem Brennan had cultivated for years, exchanged knowing, sinister smirks. "Got a rat in the house," Brennan announced loudly to the room, his voice echoing off the grimy, nicotine-stained ceiling tiles. "Caught Officer Quinn here trying to smuggle an unregistered drop gun out of evidence. Seems our diversity hire is looking to make some extra cash on the street." Amara kept her head bowed, playing the part of the utterly defeated, terrified rookie. She let her shoulders tremble, a physical reaction that was surprisingly easy to fake, given the adrenaline flooding her system. Beneath her uniform shirt, taped securely against her ribs, the tiny, state-of-the-art FBI transmitter was silently broadcasting every word, every breath, and every lie directly to a heavily armored surveillance van parked a short distance away. Inside that van, Special Agent Theo Lang and a team of federal technicians were logging the audio, establishing the airtight timeline required for a federal indictment. Brennan shoved her forcefully into Interrogation Room B, a windowless, claustrophobic box that smelled of stale sweat, industrial bleach, and fear. He slammed her down into the heavy steel chair bolted to the floor. A moment later, the door clicked open, and Lieutenant Harlan Voss stepped into the room. Voss was a lean, hollow-cheeked man with cold, dead eyes. He was the bureaucratic shield that had protected Brennan from internal investigations for years. He casually walked over to the camera mounted in the corner of the ceiling and reached up, unplugging the primary power cable. The red recording light blinked out. "Oops," Voss said, his voice a dry, humorless rasp. "Equipment malfunction. Seems to be going around today." Amara looked up, allowing her eyes to widen in manufactured panic. "You can't do this. That gun wasn't mine. You put it in my locker." Brennan laughed, pulling up a chair and straddling it backward, leaning his massive arms across the backrest. "I put it in your locker? Listen to yourself, Quinn. You sound crazy. Who is going to believe that? You think a judge is going to take the word of a probationary rookie over a decorated sergeant and a precinct lieutenant?" "I know what I saw," Amara stammered, her voice intentionally wavering, adopting the pitch of someone on the verge of a total breakdown. "I saw you plant that meth in Jordan Ellis's car. I won't lie for you. I won't sign that report." Voss sighed, pulling a folded document from the inside pocket of his tailored suit jacket. He tossed it onto the scarred metal table. It was a pre-written confession. "Here is how this is going to play out, Amara," Voss said smoothly, adopting a falsely paternal tone. "You are going to sign this piece of paper. It says that you panicked during the traffic stop, that you felt inadequate, and that you stole a firearm from the lockup to protect yourself because you were scared of the streets. If you sign it, we let you resign quietly. The department won't press felony charges. You'll lose your badge, sure, but you'll keep your freedom. You can go back to whatever civilian life you had before you made the mistake of thinking you could wear our uniform." "And if I don't?" Amara asked, letting a tear slip down her cheek, a masterful stroke of acting she had perfected during her undercover training at Quantico. Brennan leaned in so close she could smell the stale onions and coffee on his breath. "If you don't, I personally walk this unregistered, defaced firearm over to the district attorney. I testify that I found it in your locker. We charge you with possession of a stolen firearm, tampering with evidence, and official misconduct. You'll do a long stretch in a state penitentiary. And let me tell you, Quinn, cops don't do well in state lockup, especially not pretty little rookies." Amara took a shuddering breath. The legal parameters for Title 18 U.S.C., Section 241, Conspiracy Against Rights, required proof that two or more persons conspired to injure, oppress, threaten, or intimidate someone in the free exercise of their constitutional rights. She had the threat. Now, she needed them to explicitly confess to the conspiracy. She needed to stroke their egos. Men like Brennan and Voss could not resist bragging about their invincibility. "Why are you doing this?" Amara cried, leaning forward and looking desperately between the two men. "I just wanted to be a good cop. Why ruin Jordan Ellis's life? He's just a kid. He's a college student. He wasn't hurting anyone." "Because Ellis is a statistic," Brennan barked, his face flushing with arrogant rage. "He's a number on a spreadsheet. You think this city gives us funding because we're nice? They give us funding. They approve our overtime because we generate arrests. We keep the streets clean. The people in the nice suburbs don't care how we do it, as long as the problem stays in neighborhoods like this one." "So you just frame innocent people?" Amara asked, her voice hushed with perfectly feigned horror. "How many times have you done this?" "As many times as it takes," Voss interjected coldly. "We maintain order. You are a disruption to that order." We've been running this precinct our way for years. We survived 4 mayors, 3 police chiefs, and a dozen bleeding-heart internal affairs audits. You think someone like FBI Director Christopher Wray or the Department of Justice is going to swoop down and care about a busted rookie in Fairview? You're nothing, Quinn. We are the law here. I have it on my body cam. Amara lied, needing them to confess to destroying federal evidence. The camera in the cruiser. I saw you take the drugs from your vest. Brennan smirked, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a crushed, mangled piece of black plastic and circuitry. It was the memory module from her cruiser's dash cam. You mean this? Brennan sneered, dropping the shattered electronics onto the table. Like I said, equipment malfunction. There is no evidence, Quinn. There is no white knight coming to save you. It's just you, me, and this confession. Sign the paper. In the surveillance van a short distance away, Agent Lang pressed his finger to his earpiece. The audio feed was crystal clear. Brennan had just admitted to framing a suspect, extortion, threatening a fellow officer, and the willful destruction of evidence. We have it all, Amara. Lang's voice crackled almost imperceptibly in the tiny bone conduction earpiece hidden deep inside Amara's ear canal. Operation is a go. Breach teams are moving. Stand by. Inside the suffocating interrogation room, the atmosphere shifted. The terrified, trembling rookie vanished. Amara stopped crying. Her shoulders squared, her posture perfectly aligning into the rigid, disciplined stance of a federal agent. She looked at the crushed memory card on the table, then looked up at Brennan, her eyes devoid of any fear. They were as cold and sharp as obsidian. You know, Sergeant, Amara said, her voice dropping its wavering pitch and replacing it with a calm, authoritative resonance that caught Brennan completely off guard. You really should have run my fingerprints through the federal NCIC database instead of just the state municipal system. Brennan frowned, exchanging a quick, confused glance with Lieutenant Voss. What the hell are you talking about, Quinn? Shut up and sign the paper. I can't do that, Amara said, leaning back in her chair despite the cuffs binding her wrists, because signing a coerced confession under duress is a violation of federal law. But more importantly, destroying evidence relevant to an ongoing federal civil rights investigation carries a lengthy mandatory sentence in federal prison. Voss stepped forward, his eyes narrowing. Have you lost your mind? Not at all, Harlan, Amara said, using his first name casually. I'm just listing the charges. 18 U.S.C. Section 242, deprivation of rights under color of law. 18 U.S.C. Section 519, destruction of evidence. And my personal favorite, 18 U.S.C. Section 241, conspiracy. You two just confessed to all of it on tape. Brennan's face went completely white, the blood draining from his ruddy cheeks. He instinctively reached for his duty weapon. You're wearing a wire? He hissed, pure venom lacing his words. You little... Before Brennan's hand could even grip the handle of his Glock, the heavy metal door of Interrogation Room B exploded inward. The sound was deafening, a concussive blast of a battering ram, shattering the reinforced hinges. The door flew off its frame, crashing violently into the opposite wall. Through the smoke and flying debris, a tide of tactical armor flooded the small room. FB, nobody move, show me your hands. 6 heavily armed tactical agents from the FBI's hostage rescue team swarmed the room, their assault rifles raised, laser sights painting a grid of red dots directly on the chests of Brennan and Voss. Brennan froze, his hand still hovering over his holster. Don't do it, Cole, Special Agent Lang shouted, pushing his way through the tactical team. Lang, was dressed in a sharp suit beneath a heavy FBI tactical vest. He leveled his sidearm directly at Brennan's head. "Move your hand away from the weapon right now," slowly. Agonizingly, Brennan raised his hands into the air. Voss was already on his knees, his hands locked behind his head, his face pressed against the filthy linoleum floor, weeping silently as his long-running empire crumbled in a matter of seconds. Tactical agents moved in, stripping Brennan of his gun belt and violently shoving him against the concrete wall. The metallic click of federal handcuffs locking around his wrists sounded like a thunderclap in the confined space. Long holstered his weapon and walked over to Amara. He pulled a specialized key from his pocket and unlocked her handcuffs. "You okay, Quinn?" Long asked, a small, proud smile touching the corners of his mouth. Amara rubbed her raw wrists, standing up and towering over the kneeling Lieutenant Voss. "I'm fine, Theo. I believe these two gentlemen were just finishing their confessions." Brennan, his cheek pressed hard against the wall by a tactical agent, twisted his neck to look at her. The realization of his total destruction was setting in. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a profound, hollow shock. "Who are you?" Brennan rasped, his voice barely a whisper. "Who the hell are you?" Amara reached down to her ankle, pulling up the hem of her uniform trousers. From a concealed ankle rig, she withdrew a flat leather case. She flipped it open and held it directly in front of Brennan's face. The gold shield of the Federal Bureau of Investigation gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights, flanked by her official credentials. "Special Agent Amara Quinn, Federal Bureau of Investigation, Civil Rights Division," she said, her voice echoing with the full weight of the United States Department of Justice. "I was dispatched directly from the J. Edgar Hoover building. And Cole, you have the right to remain silent, though considering what you just broadcasted to the director of the FBI, I'd say it's a little too late for that." The fallout was catastrophic for the Fairview Police Department. The FBI raid did not stop in the interrogation room. Dozens of federal agents poured into the precinct, seizing servers, filing cabinets, and arresting 4 other officers implicated in Brennan's inner circle. Local news vans arrived soon after, their cameras capturing the unprecedented sight of a dozen uniformed police officers being marched out of their own precinct in federal chains. Later that night, Amara stood in the processing center of the local county jail. She had traded her Fairview police uniform for a sharp, tailored navy suit. She watched through the security glass as the heavy steel doors buzzed open. Jordan Ellis, the young college student Brennan had framed earlier, walked out into the lobby. He looked exhausted, terrified, and utterly bewildered. When he saw Amara waiting for him, he flinched, recognizing her as the rookie from the traffic stop. "It's okay, Jordan," Amara said gently, stepping forward and offering a warm, reassuring smile. "You're free to go. All charges have been dropped. Your record is completely clean." Jordan stared at her, then down at the federal badge clipped to her belt. Tears welled in his eyes as the realization washed over him. You were undercover. You saved my life." "No," Amara corrected softly, handing him his personal belongings. "I just did my job. Go home, Jordan. Get back to class." As she watched the young man walk out of the double-glass doors into the warm summer night, a profound sense of closure settled over her. The system was deeply flawed, and the battle against corruption was an endless, grueling war. But tonight, a viper's nest had been eradicated, and an innocent man was sleeping in his own bed. Amara Quinn walked out of the precinct, climbed into the passenger seat of Lang's unmarked SUV, and began the long drive back to Washington. Her mission in Fairview was complete, but she knew there would always be another Brennan out there. And when the time came, she would be waiting in the shadows, ready to bring the hammer down. Did this explosive finale leave you on the edge of your seat? The justice system has its flaws, but seeing corrupt cops get exactly what they deserve is incredibly satisfying. If you loved this intense story of FBI undercover tactics and real-world justice, hit that like button right now. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and subscribe to our channel for more thrilling, true-to-life dramas. Leave a comment below. What was your favorite twist?